Hey guys, Espionic here talking about the recent official announcement of Pokémon Omega Ruby and Pokémon Alpha Sapphire for the Nintendo 3DS. In case you aren't aware, these are remakes of Pokémon Ruby and Pokémon Sapphire, which came out in 2003 for the Game Boy Advance. Now I'm a huge Pokémon fan, it's my favorite video game franchise. Heck, I'm still a fan of the anime, and my favorite video game of all time is Pokémon Crystal, though admittedly it's due very much to nostalgia. Pokémon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, the latter of which is essentially a special edition of Ruby and Sapphire. Those games, on the other hand, are my second least favorite games in the series. I can't put my finger on it, but for some reason I didn't enjoy these games as much as the second generation or the 4th through 6th generations. That being said, I'm excited. Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire are far from my favorites in the series, but I did still like them. And getting a remake treatment does wonders for these older games. Fire Red and Leaf Green were remakes of Red and Blue, or Green instead of Blue in Japan, that added the mechanics that were introduced in Ruby and Sapphire, such as new abilities like Pikachu's Static. It also doesn't suffer from the broken mechanics that were first generation, like Rat making slower opponents being unable to attack until 2 to 5 turns had passed, or flat out missing the Pokemon when throwing a Pokeball at it. Heart Gold and Soul Silver were remakes of Gold and Silver that had mechanics introduced in Diamond and Pearl, most importantly the physical special split, which for me will be one of the biggest benefits for these remakes. Speaking of benefits, this is after Pokemon X and Y, so these remakes will have rules from those games. The Fairy type was introduced in X and Y, and a few Pokemon that were introduced in Ruby and Sapphire became Fairy types in X and Y, like Azurill, Mawile, and Routes. The other big thing was the introduction of Mega Evolutions, and quite a few 3rd generation Pokemon have them. Blaziken, Gardevoir, Mawile, Aggron, Medicham, Manectric, Bayonet, and Absol were all given Mega Evolutions. There's also the leak about the event with Mega Evolutions for Latios and Latias. Of course, the big question is, would this game introduce new Mega Evolutions? Because only 3 first and second generation Pokemon that were in Ruby and Sapphire had Mega Evolutions now, and those are Alakazam, Gyarados, and Heracross. On the other hand, assuming that none of the 4th through 6th generation Pokemon are catchable when playing the main story of these remakes, I would say that the ratio of the approximate 200 or so Pokemon that were originally in Ruby and Sapphire that now have Mega Evolutions is probably plenty for this game. There's also the fact that Groudon and Kyogre appear to have different forms in these remakes. In fact, it's been said that these forms of them are something similar to Black and White Kyurem for Black and White 2 and Mega Mewtwo Y when it was first revealed for X and Y. So I don't know if it is a Mega Evolution for them or just a new alternate form. And I wonder if Rayquaza would get one too. It's at the very least an interesting change to keep these remakes feeling fresh compared to the original games. One of the other big questions is how different would these be from their original counterparts? I mean, after all, the teaser trailer says these games will have an epic new adventure in a dramatic new world, even though these are just remakes. So how would the land of Hoenn change other than getting an X and Y styled makeover and maybe changing the aesthetics of a few areas like Heart Gold and Soul Silver did? Heart Gold and Soul Silver also added areas that were missing in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, like the Safari Zone. They added that in Sealand City, and the Viridian Forest as we knew it from the first generation. And Fire Red and Leaf Green, they added the Sevi Islands that were originally supposed to be in Red and Blue. So what could be added to Hoenn for this game? I'm not entirely sure. I can bet that the Battle Frontier, contests, and secret bases will make returns. Concerning how far the series has come, secret bases could be a really cool addition. Now, one of the biggest criticisms of this game is that it's very surf heavy. The last maybe 30% of the game involves a lot of surfing. So that may be something that people would want changed. I doubt that would change because Hoenn is very much a tropical, exotic environment, and it will make sense to have a lot of sea. Not to mention the sea is a big part of the story. The story is another thing to consider. How would that change? I don't know how the story would change that much. I mean, Heart Gold and Soul Silver didn't change the main story a whole lot. Most of the changes in the game involve the Komodo girls having a considerably more prominent role. Maybe May/Brendan as your rival, or Wally as rivals. They'll have more presence in the game, which would be one change I would love to have for the game story. One of the things I'm actually really excited about for this game is the music, because Ruby and Sapphire have good soundtracks in my opinion, but if it gets the same sort of treatment as X and Y did with its instrumentation, then we could have some really sweet remixes. I mean, X and Y has one of my favorite soundtracks of the series, so if it sounds anything like that, I'll be really happy. And overall, I'm very intrigued to see how they'll update this game. It's funny, people seem to hate Ruby and Sapphire when it first came out, or didn't bother with it at the time. But now I see people saying it's their favorite in the series, so people are definitely warming up to these games. And I'm glad they waited until now instead of during 5th generation, because we already had a ton of Pokemon games for the DS. And now we also have the Fairy type, and presumably Mega Evolutions to add to the mix now. And of course the 3D graphics, so I definitely think the timing is good. It's slated for a worldwide release in November this year. I'm definitely going to be picking that up. Anyway, that's it for this video. This is Espionic signing out. Bye bye.